Hey brothers, and the occasional sister joining me on this video. I don't know what it's going to be about. I'm just in the garden doing some weeding and I thought I know what to do. I'll make a random video. Hey, check out my lettuce patch. I've tried something different. I've tried putting coffee grounds over the top of the soil to keep the slugs out, and it seems to be working, because look at my lettuces, they're smashing out. These ones on the side that look a bit dead, they're old plants that were from the shop that were just ones that are eaten. Those ones that are, when they put them in water, they propagate them in water, hydroponics. So I thought I'd put the roots in. I get about 50% grow. And over here, my plants that are underneath all the bird net, I'm eating them right now, so they're good. What I'm doing right now is I'm just weeding the garlic, because this stuff just grows constantly, these bloody weeds down here, and the root systems, that you can't get them out. So best way is just to keep on pulling out the actual leaf at the top, so at least the plant can't photosynthesize, and if it does photosynthesize, it grows more, and then it will strangle my garlics. This is garlic. So traditionally, I think you're supposed to grow garlic on the shortest day and harvest on the longest. Is that right? I'm not really sure about that, because these were planted about a month late, but they're doing right, so we'll get some garlic. So these days I'm growing all my own food. I'm living off the land for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is that I don't trust it's always going to be a food source for us, and it's also something that my granddad used to do. My dad did it, and I didn't do it. I've always been a hunter and a fisherman, and I've never done the garden. And in my later years, now I've realised that it's actually an important part of food, which I've come to rely too much in the shops, and I found that out during lockdown, when I couldn't get broccoli. How stupid was that? So I bought frozen broccoli, and there's nothing wrong with frozen vegetables that are snap frozen, but then guess what happened? All the frozen broccoli after a while disappeared, and we had shortages, and they said, don't panic, we'll get more in from Christchurch. And I thought, yep, but what if it just all did run out? Well, I'd hunt rabbit and I'd go fishing, but you can't just live off rabbit. In fact, you'd die if you just ate rabbit. And you probably could just live off fish, and I could live off my chickens, but I want to have a diet that's nutritionally dense, and you get that from your vegetables, don't you? So this tool here's good, $10 at the mega store, and yeah, just bloody great for doing this here, just raking out the tops of the weeds. It's another way to take them out from the top, so they can't, just don't want to get my roots of my beautiful smell lovely garlic. So what am I going to talk about today? Well, first of all, thanks for joining the channel still and following me, because I don't really bring a lot to the table other than just having a yak with you guys. I sort of treat this as a place for sounding my own thoughts and getting feedback, and a lot of you give me some good feedback. Tony, Pig Hunter, I think he calls himself Pig Dog or something, I forget your name, bro, in Australia, he's got some good stuff. Colin Price has always got something interesting to say. So is Selwyn, the fisherman. Deb, we've got a female on there, Deb, she's always got something nice to say. Steve, there's a lot of you that drop in here and talk, so it's a bit like I'm out in the garden here, and because I live alone, don't live with a woman, never got married. Well, they say, don't if it's not broke, don't try and fix it. I don't think anybody could put up with me, to be honest. And so it's like, I've got a few mates here, I'll just have a chat to them. What I try to do when I'm working and doing these jobs is I try to get in the zone and just enjoy being here in the garden, and make it into something that's fun rather than see it as a job. And I do enjoy it. I do enjoy it very much. And I find a lot of similarities with the garden with just life. I talked about this the other day in my other channel, and it's true. We wake up every morning, and we've hopefully we've slept the night before okay, and when we sleep we clean everything, all our plaque gets cleaned off our brain. That's important. That's why a lot of night workers often end up getting dementia. People that do shift work often end up getting dementia. There's quite often nurses and truckers at the homestead where I help out sometimes that have dementia, that have spent years doing the night shift, and it does catch up on you, because when you sleep it clears the plaque off your brain, literally. That's why it's so important. And also all the cell damage gets replaced too when you're sleeping, so it's important for healing. But it's also important for healing you mentally as well. And a lot of problems that people have are just problems that they are reintroducing from the previous day into the next day. So if you think about nature, just imagine, for instance, I won't use New Zealand as an example because we don't have many animals that predate, but let's go to, say, Africa or Australia, or let's just say Africa. Imagine you've got a gazelle running along just through the paddock there, and it's nice high grass, and it finds a nice place to eat, and it's like there's water over there, and it starts chomping away on a bit of grass, and then suddenly it senses danger. It looks up and it sees this leopard coming full tit straight at it. Suddenly it's gone from eating to survival mode, panic mode. First thing that happens is its kidneys, or the adrenal glands, where the kidneys are positioned, close to the adrenal glands, first of all release a huge amount of cortisol or cortisone. Is it cortisone? Sorry. Adrenaline then becomes cortisone, then becomes cortisol. So one of you guys that knows better, correct me on that, because I've probably got that wrong. It releases adrenaline, straight away all the blood goes from the brain to the muscles to make the muscles work, and it runs for its life. It digs in and it gives everything. Its thinking is just limited to one thing only: get away. No blood is going to the brain for anything else than to its flight mode. It's not fight mode, it's in flight mode, and it does this, and it's horrifically traumatic for the animal, and the cheetah gets a claw on its back leg and it uses its adrenaline to kick that leg out and kick him in the face, and the cheetah's still going full tit, and eventually the cheetah's only good for a few hundred meters, and eventually the animal has got away from the cheetah and it survives. It survives that traumatic experience, and it runs off into another place. And when it knows it's safe, it puts its head down and it starts eating again. Now, when it's down eating, it doesn't constantly go through the traumatic experience of being chased and almost killed. What it does is it just keeps on eating until at some stage, when danger comes along again, it has a memory of what's happened, how it got away, and if it got away once, it might get away twice. Eventually, in nature, it will either, something will kill it. It won't die of old age. Animals don't die of old age in nature. They get to a point where they're too old to get away and they get killed. There's no such thing as rest homes for animals in the wild. They get eaten. It's eat or be eaten. And even the lions, even they get killed by the hyenas when they're old. It's nature. So for us human beings, we've had thousands and thousands of years of evolving, and we also, for a long time, we were predated on by other animals. We were hunted, and we also had this thing where we had to do exactly what that animal had to do, had to run for our lives to get away. And after that traumatic experience of getting away, if we survived, we'd go back to just trying to find food and foraging and maybe doing a bit of fishing, or however we did a bit of hunting. And we didn't spend all our time thinking about that traumatic experience of being hunted by something else, by the saber-toothed tiger or whatever it was, the lion. We couldn't, because we had to just keep on doing this job of survival. Well, it's the same for you today. If you've had a traumatic experience in your childhood or in your life, something really bad has happened to you, then put it in its rightful place. So when you wake in the morning, if you're going over something that was horrible that happened to you, for the fear of it happening again, then you're not living naturally like we should. And I view the garden the same way, and I'm coming around in a big circle here. You wake up, and here's my garden. Yesterday, I took all the weeds out of the garden. I got rid of all the old stuff, and it's springtime and all the weeds are growing again. These are like the bad things that happen, the thought of something horrific or traumatic. You get rid of those things, you weed them out. You get rid of those bastards. You've got a choice. I'm not gonna keep on hanging on to that. Yeah, there's that thought. Fuck that. That doesn't serve me any good. See you later. Okay, this is when I got dropped on my head as a child. That's no good. I don't want that there. That there's no good. Oh, here's that bloody woman down here that bloody did the dirty on me with me best mate. She can fuck off. Oh, what's this over here? Now, this is the time that my old man kicked me to the ground. That can fuck off. I don't need that. And you just weed all that shit out until you got nice soil, and you start fresh. And you go through that day. Otherwise, you're going through the day and you're perpetuating and reliving something that already was traumatic once, and you're feeling the trauma again because your brain doesn't know the difference. Animals don't do it. They're smart. But a lot of humans do it. And I know that because I was talking to a lady the other day. She came up to the house. She was telling me stuff that her dad done to her when she was small, and she said it's just like yesterday. Here she is my age. And I thought, yep, I've heard this story a lot. She needs to weed her garden in her head. So you wake up in the morning and that plaque has cleaned everything out of your brain. So don't reintroduce, don't go over old thoughts. Just go, well, that doesn't serve the garden any good anymore. Pull that fucker out and fuck it away, because it's no good. Now, I know it's not that simple. I know that when something traumatic happens to an animal or to a human being, that when adrenaline is released and cortisol, it also makes that very strong in the memory. That's the thing. And the reason it does it strong in the memory is so that we don't forget it. So we don't, it's a survival thing, so we don't make the same mistake again. But also, make sure you put it in its rightful place. Now, I say this out of personal experience. I'm not just blowing out my ass here. I had a traumatic experience when I was 5, a real terrible experience, and I had to do some work on that. I couldn't stop. It was always there. It was a personal experience. I was kicked to the ground, literally, and I saw my friend Hillary that does hypnosis, and she did something called emotional freedom technique, and she worked on that with me. And it was just like yesterday when I talked to her about it, and I couldn't get rid of it. And she did this thing where she got to my subconscious, and eventually I could talk about the incident without any pain or electricity attached to it. And when I think about that today and I talk about it to you, it's like I'm talking about it happening to someone else. I don't actually feel anything emotional to it. But that's through the subconscious mind. So if you've got something really, really deep down, it's really been traumatic, then you might need hypnotherapy, or you might need emotional freedom technique, which is really interesting. I've actually used emotional freedom technique myself on teaching people to get over stage fright for playing on stage. And I've also done it on my own children, given them that same, I was going to say, it's a type of healing, and I've also had it done to me, and it's a great way to get to the subconscious, because that's where everything is. But also, these things shouldn't be dwelled on either. They should be dealt with, put in their rightful place, and then you can move on. The mind is a thing to serve us for problem solving, but not for bloody well making things tougher. And all of us, to some degree or another, have had our struggles. Some people have none at all. Some people, like, every day is a struggle, and other people, like me, occasionally something comes up and I go, oh, fuck, I've got to look at this now. I didn't want to look at that, and I deal with it, and it's horrible, and you don't want to deal with it. You don't wake up in the morning and go, oh, today I'm going to evolve. No, some shit comes along, like you get fucking cancer, or you get heart disease, or something shitty, and you got to look at it, and you got to deal with it. Or your girlfriend leaves you, or your girlfriend bails on you when you need it the most. I mean, these things happen, and we've all got challenges. What I say is weed out your garden, and plant new stuff in it, good stuff. Make the garden fertile, but get rid of, before you're planting, you got to get rid of the old shit. So you got to go about that. All right, enough about that. Just something that came into my head while I was working. I thought I might make a video out of it, because I actually hadn't pre-thought about that. It's just, I did mention it the other day. It came into my head when I was walking down to the dam. The analogy of getting the weeds out of the garden. Otherwise, you're just going to keep on repeating the same old mad shit every day, and it's just not going to serve you any good. In fact, that's a form of insanity, really, isn't it? Keep on going over the same old thing. What's it called? A manifestation, when you have that? You manifest something, but you can also manifest really good stuff too. Like, I've manifested some really cool stuff. Thought about something, because whatever you think about, you go towards it. Isn't that crazy? And I remember this Irishman in this bar over in Germany once, and he said, if you can hit this, it was actually in Deutschmarks back in the day, this 50 Deutschmark note with your dart, we're playing darts in a pub, you can have it, but if you miss it, you've got to give me 100. I said, well, it's huge, mate, it's massive. And he's like, yeah, so you should be able to hit that. And I said, I'm not going to give you 100 if I miss it. I'll give you 50 back. How does that sound? He said, well, shows you 50, so I took 50 out. I put that on the bar, and he went and put his 50 up, and you know how big the note's about this square, right? And I used to be able to hit the inside bullseye or the triple 20. I was pretty good at darts before I fucked my shoulder. So he puts it up on right in the middle of the board, and I thought, oh, I can fucking hit that easy. Here goes easy 50. And I threw it, and I was fucking miles off. And he knew the trick, that the brain sees it, but it's foreign. You're always used to looking at that dartboard and all the other stuff, and it's outside of what the brain wants to normally go for. You've got to make sure that what you really want in life is something that you really want to go for, and that comes from programming. So we program ourselves when we're playing darts all the time to either hit the bullseye or the triple 20 or the double 20 or whatever it is, but we don't program to hit foreign stuff outside of it. So if you've got something that's really cool, different, in the case you want to manifest something, you've got to practice it every day and keep on thinking about it, going over and over, and you'll get it. And I've done it with stuff. I really wanted to catch a kingfish last season, and I know it sounds far-fetched. There's some guys that have lived here their whole lives and never caught one out here in the bay, and I've caught 2. I've also caught a John Dory, and I really wanted to catch a kingfish, and every time I'd go out my boat, if you're going to try to catch kingfish, you've got to target kingfish. You might go out and catch a snapper and hit a kingfisher, there's a lot around, but if you specifically want to catch a kingfish, you've got to target kingfish. And so I pictured myself catching this big kingfish, and I had it in my mind what I was going to do. I was going to catch a live bait first, and I was going to paddle around until I found a cluster of fish, and there'd be a kingfish under there, and you see my live bait, and I'd picture it, and then I'd picture how I would not get too excited. I never got that one quite right, and I'd be paddling around, and there would be my kingfish. It would hit the live bait, I'd play it wouldn't get off, and eventually I'd land it into the kayak, stick the knife in its head, and I'd bring sashimi home for my girlfriend and for everybody else, and we'd all live happily ever after, except the kingfish. So I practiced this in my mind, and I went out heaps, and it didn't really happen. And I was trying really hard, and I'd picture it every day, and didn't give up. And towards the end of the season, I'd done a lot of fishing and missed a lot of times, but eventually I smacked that bloody kingfish, and it was almost like it happened just as I'd been picturing it in my mind the whole time, the whole fight and everything. It was exhilarating. It was cool. Yeah, you could also apply a lot of things. You could say, oh, that wasn't the law of attraction, you just kept on trying. But I know guys that have gone out there season after season in their kayak, day after day, better fishermen than me, and have never ever caught one, or if they have never landed. And that was my second year in a row catching a kingfish. Maybe there's something in it, maybe there's not. But to what I've experienced and what I've found is that by practicing crystallizing an image in your head, imagining it, that it actually does go a long way to making it come to something realization. And I call that a positive manifestation. You're manifesting something, and I think you could do it with lots of things. You could do it with money. I think it starts by changing your words. Instead of going I'm poor, saying I'm rich. Instead of saying I'm sick, saying I'm well. If you want wellness. If you want a partner, and you haven't got someone in your life, saying I'm going to find that right person in my life. That woman is going to come. You keep on talking about it and thinking about it. If you keep on saying negative things and talking negatively, you're going to find that's going to negatively impact on you as well. And I've experienced that too. I've also had things come out of the blue, which I know I didn't manifest. I didn't wish to get cancer years ago. There's a lot of things I've got, but that's also just, that's life in general. A 2-year-old child doesn't wish to get leukemia. They're not manifesting anything. They're just like drinking their milk and getting the nappies changed, and shit happens as well. But I think overall, we can actually make a difference to the things in our life by the thoughts that we have. It goes a long way. So I'm going to finish up. Weed your garden. Like when you wake up in the morning, make sure you don't repeat the same negative pattern from the day before, because that ain't serving you or the world any good. And enjoy the process. I know it's easier said than done, but a good start will just be do one thing at a time, because the brain's an incredible thing. It can do some amazing things for us, as well as it can sabotage us. The old brain is a tool to serve us, not to fucking make our lives harder. And I'm getting on top of these weeds. You can feel the sun's coming down. The worst bloody thing is this stuff here. It just grows constantly, and you got to pick it. And look, it twists right around the plant. See this here? It's come around the ground here. It's gone up here, and it's got this nice garlic, and it's like twisting it. So you, mate, you're gone. Now we'll take it off the plant now. Yeah, how hard's that? Not too hard. I keep on top of them. Ideally I'd have better soil without this in it, but I can't get rid of it. Hey brothers, check on a brother and check on your garden. And when you wake up tomorrow morning, check that you're not going over the same old stuff that's serving you no good. Pull out the weeds, put some nice fresh soil and grow some nice new plants. In other words, put some cool new thoughts in there. Happy thoughts, things that are going to make your life better and the people you love better. Things that you love doing, that you're passionate about, things that spark your joy every day. Give that a crack. Go steady, and see you in the next video. I'm just going to carry on pulling weeds. I've got to do this patch behind me next. Oh jeez, I only did it 2 days ago and look at it. Fresh plants all coming up there again. They're everywhere. Oh, it's the joy of getting into the garden and doing it. See you later.